Hi there, Brian of London here again, speaking to you from my bomb shelter in the sky in Tel Aviv. I made a detailed video on Friday about how the London-based Varki Foundation gave its Global Teacher Award to a Palestinian teacher, Hanan Al Hroub, and the abject failure of the press to report the story properly. Since the video was almost 15 minutes long, I wanted to do a quick, too long didn't read summary. So that's what this is. Here's what started this. The good people of the Varki Foundation, and we'll assume they're good people because the press didn't actually check, the good people of the Varki Foundation, having granted themselves the right to decide who the best teacher in the world is, gave their award to a Palestinian teacher whose sole claim to fame seems to be that she teaches peace and non-violence. They hold the ceremony in Dubai, and that's an apartheid state. It doesn't allow free practice of religion, except Islam, and blocks Israelis from entering. And that's without even mentioning its dismal record of slave labour. The news services, such as the Associated Press, do no digging of their own, as decent self-respecting journalism ought to demand. Instead, they reprint the Foundation's press release almost verbatim, without question or critique. Since this story about Palestinians doesn't involve terrorism, it's run in almost every newspaper from Dubai to Dearborn. Of course, the only reason it's even a story is that it's about Palestinians and it doesn't involve terrorism. But the only reason it doesn't involve terrorism is because the press didn't do its job. The same day the story came out, Aussie Dave at Israellycool noticed tweets from Arabic sources proudly mentioning Mrs. Al Hroub's husband, Omar Al Hroub. Turns out he's a convicted terrorist, having served time for his part in a vicious attack in 1980 in which 6 Jews were murdered. He's now an official in the Palestinian Authority, pulling down an official salary partially funded by EU and British taxpayers. But for 2 weeks, nobody saw fit to report that part of the story. But Israellycool does, and slowly, a few weeks late, the newswires publish it. Suddenly, it's a line item in the New York Times and needs to be explained away. Even at this late date, no one has bothered asking the world's best teacher what she thinks of her husband's actions. We don't know whether Mrs. Al Hroub follows the standard Palestinian Authority line of praising resistance operations. But as every other part of Palestinian society does praise operations, we can pretty much assume she might be part of that too. We don't know because so-called journalists aren't asking those questions, and even when they ask, they don't print the answers, unless the answers are the ones they want to hear. We're told Mrs. Al Hroub is a peace-loving Palestinian, but we're not given a shred of evidence. So in the end, as it always seems to be, this is yet another story about Palestinian society that cannot be separated from Islamic terrorism. And still we're wondering, out of all the teachers in the world, how did Hanan Al Hroub, the wife of a convicted and presumably unrepentant terrorist, end up receiving a big cash award in Dubai? The global press are a disgrace, and the newswires are the worst of them all. Yet again, they're all behaving like social justice warriors, pushing a regressive, left-wing, pro-Islamic terror story down all the world's throats, instead of digging for the truth and reporting it. In short, their jobs. If you've enjoyed this or the other work of Israellycool, please consider a value-for-value contribution to help us keep the site up and running and working to expose this kind of nonsense. This has been Brian of London, speaking from my bomb shelter in the sky in Tel Aviv.